Some years ago, I was on a plane, and I tend to be a very nervous flyer, so often whoever's sitting next to me ends up comforting me throughout the flight. I was sitting next to this very kind gentleman who noticed my fear, and as we were taking off, he took my hand and he just said very calmly, "What are you afraid of?" And just hearing the way that he said that, it kind of wiped all my fear away. And ever since then, whenever I fly and I get nervous, I just think of him telling me, "What are you afraid of?" So I was very grateful for this seatmate. And then we got to talking through the rest of the flight, and I ended up telling him that I was a novelist for a living. And he was like, "Don't let my son hear that. He wants to be a writer." And I told him, "No, you go get a practical degree. Don't be a writer." And I could have asked him, "What are you afraid of?" And he probably would have said, "I'm afraid of my son living on the street." I guess that just goes to show that we all fear somewhat different things. And I've thought about that flight a lot of times since. The fear of pursuing a impractical career path is one that certainly terrifies a lot of people when they're thinking about their kids. And I'm very grateful to my parents that they never tried to steer me to anything in particular. They just kind of let us do what we were doing, and somehow me and my two sisters, they became professional artists and I became a professional novelist. And we get a lot of that, "You're a very talented family." And talent is a factor, but if you've tried to pursue a creative line of work, you will quickly realize that your talent it's like planting the seed, but if you don't actually tend to the plant with all of the hard work and the correct amount of water and sunlight and fertilizer and all of that, your crop's probably not going to be great. The talent is only one little part of growing an artistic career. And the fact that all three of us became professionals does make me think that allowing your kids to dream that they can have a creative job and not telling them that they can't might actually help them actually really achieve that thing. Which also makes me think about all the other ways that we tell ourselves that we can't do something, or we can't have something, or we can't achieve something. Certainly, I'm guilty of telling myself that's going to be so hard, that's too difficult. And I think there are some things where I know that part of what's going to make it hard is that I don't actually really have the drive to get to the goal. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you'll know that I make no illusions about the fact that being a professional novelist and now a sort of professional YouTuber, it's not a job that I would recommend to anyone who wasn't extremely committed to the concept of it. If you can go work a more steady job than this and not go crazy, you might want to strongly consider it, because there are certainly times when I'm like, why can't I just enjoy a normal job? In my case, I've had jobs that I really enjoyed, that I thought that it would probably be a great life to just work a normal job and come home and play video games and not be so wrapped up in all of these things in my head. But I can't seem to do it. Even when I love my job, I wish I was not there so that I could write at least some days of the month. So that's kind of how I've always known that I need to try, that it's worth trying, even though it's hard, because it is hard. Having the drive has also made me think that I shouldn't tell myself that I can't do it. And early on when I was younger, I definitely was caught in a loop of this feels impossible. And so I often didn't even try. And when I did, I would try with the narrative that it was going to fail right from the start to kind of cushion myself from the blow of the failure. But over time, I got a little better about believing that I actually could do these things. So that's what I want to talk about in this video. One of the biggest barriers to not achieving or wildly exceeding your dreams is just exhaustion. A few months ago, I started taking Magic Mind mental performance shots, and I have noticed the difference. Now, when I finish lunch and I want to get back to work on my book or video editing or whatever, I'll often feel that tiredness coming on, but I've been able to fight through it almost every time since I started taking Magic Mind, keep working and then like catch my second wind. I've also noticed how the type of like energy that it provides also seems to reduce my stress at the same time, which is an awesome bonus. And they just reached out to let me know that they're having a Black Friday sale through December 6th. Magic Mind is 50% off using my exclusive link, magicmind.com/foxglovebf. That's FOXGLOVEBF. So even though my parents were not at all discouraging about being a writer, a lot of the other people in my life definitely were, particularly my coworkers at my first retail job. A lot of them made fun of me because I wasn't going to college and I was working on this novel that I was really struggling to finish, but I was very serious about it and I talked about it all the time, and it was a big part of my identity was that I was going to be a novelist. But like many young writers, I was mightily struggling with actually finishing a book and getting it out there. I definitely started being influenced and getting insecure because of how many people were asking me, like, was I going to go to college? Was I going to get some kind of like real degree, job, career path going? And I started looking into college and thinking about like other stuff to do with my life. There was that path that I could have very easily taken, and if I had, I'd probably be in somewhat of a different place in life right now. You never know in what way, but aside from my parents, I also had one friend who was really serious about being a writer, and she encouraged me relentlessly. She would give feedback on my stories and tell me like information about how to look for an agent, how to write a query letter. She would give me critiques. She was a friend, but she ended up playing a bit of a mentor role. And that was at a point when I was feeling pretty lost and I was having trouble finishing a book. She was the one who suggested that we kind of like dare each other to finish a trashy teen novel over the summer, which was the first book I ended up really finishing. So for whatever reason, this girl had a really good sense of how to encourage another writer friend, even though she was not a lot older than me and didn't come from a very encouraging family at all, as far as I could tell. But some people just have like a real talent for having drive and encouraging other people. One person can have such a big impact in helping you to change your narrative. So I just want to encourage you to think about any kind of narrative you might be telling yourself that isn't necessarily true and might be holding you back from the things that you really care about. I feel like in a lot of ways, my creative life didn't just start with like putting keys to the keyboard and button chair and getting the novels done, although that was also very important. But it also started with like questioning the narratives that were swirling around me. Like in my case, one of them was, do I need to go to college? And I'm definitely not down on going to college. In fact, I was very jealous of some of my friends who went to college at the time because it sounded pretty fun. And I do love like academics, but it didn't turn out to be right for me. And if it had been right for me, I would hope that it was because I had really thought about it from a personal stance and not just listen to coworkers who were basically like, you loser, why aren't you in college? Like whatever you're going to do in life, one of the best things that you can do for yourself is just really learning to listen to what matters to you. And not getting too caught up in things like what your friends are doing, what your friends have. Are your friends going on vacation? I have a lot of friends that have gone on vacations abroad, and I sometimes get jealous of those vacations. But I also feel like they're kind of hard to take when you have a unstable writer job, and I prioritized other things, mainly like gaining financial stability so that I can pursue my creative projects in a more free sort of way. And there's nothing wrong with choosing the other way and deciding that the vacations are awesome. I mean, vacations can be really awesome. Nobody's arguing that point. All that I'm getting at here is that we all have to make decisions about what we're going to prioritize in our lives with our time and our money. And if what you really treasure is time and space to be creative, in any way, a lot of times the world is going to fight you on that because it doesn't sound glamorous. It doesn't look good on social media to just be like, well, I spent my 7th day in a row banging away at my novel. I mean, it sounds a little glamorous, but not as glamorous as we just flew to Kyoto. Chances are, in order to have that little quiet life where you have a week off to work on your novel, you might have given up something else. A really intense job, or the money that you would spend on a newer car. Those kind of common things that we might be envious of with other people, that you really do have to stay kind of like mentally focused on your personal priorities to not let that get to you, especially with social media. It is so easy to let that sense of influence creep in that like, my life is not complete unless I have X that this person has. And each little decision like that, it can have a cascading effect, and it can really start to affect your ability to have the things that you really do want. It's like all these teeny tiny decisions, like, what do I want to do with my Friday night? Maybe you have a friend who's calling you like, oh, come on, don't you want to party? Don't you want to hang out? And you haven't had time to write all week because you've been at your day job, and what you really want to do is write, but you feel so uncool if you say no to your friend. If hanging out with a friend actually sounds better, again, go with the friend. I'm all for having friends, but each little tiny decision like that can start to add up and erode your time and financial resources to pursue your goals. So I think it's really important when you first embark upon a personal goal to sit down and think about what steps will get you there, what you would really want to sacrifice for it if you must, and what are the things about it that really bring you joy? What does the life that you really want look like in isolation from what people around you think you should have, think you would benefit from? And then I think you really need to be able to push back mentally on the idea that you can't be successful. And there are areas of this that I'm still struggling with. When it comes to like my fantasy world, the one that feels unmarketable to me, I tend to shut it down mentally by being like, it's not very marketable. It's not going to sell. And I've been trying to work on that personally because it could sell. There are definitely marketable elements of it. There are things that like I can imagine a wide swath of people liking. And sometimes a story that's a little different is exactly what people want. So I need to stop telling myself that it's not going to succeed before I've even really executed it. Like, that's stupid. So let's try not to do that to ourselves. And actually what triggered this idea for a video was that I was on kind of a binge of financial videos. I've been doing a lot of like downsizing of my stuff. I probably need to do a video about like my changing relationship with stuff. But anyway, been downsizing a lot of stuff, and one of the things that motivates me is watching videos on like financial stuff, and not quite minimalism because I'm just not really a minimalist, but like decluttering and de-influencing, etc. And that phrase comes up so often that it's impossible to buy a house right now. And I'm certainly not one of those finger-wagging older people who has bought a house and is now like, you could all buy a house if you just stop, you know, whatever the thing is now. It used to be avocado toast, but now it's probably the Stanley Cups or something. Skincare, I don't know. But you could buy a house if you just gave up the I'm definitely not going to be on that track because houses are really expensive right now. Oh my gosh. But I did start to think about the effect of hearing you can't buy a house on social media over and over and over and over and over and over, because people still do buy houses. Even young people buy houses. There tend to be the somewhat more successful younger people, but my little sister, she just bought a townhouse all by herself, paid for with artist money, and admittedly she moved to a medium-sized town city in Tennessee, which is also how I bought my first house. I moved to a sort of working class, not huge, not glamorous place, and that is easier to do for sure when you make your living as an artist because you can live anywhere. And she probably will also run into the same problems that I had there, that it's kind of hard to make friends sometimes because you're not in like the coolest, artsiest area. But still, it is not true that she couldn't buy a house. And I think about whether it's making your living as a writer or an artist or buying a house or anything, any goal that you might have, even if it is taking a wondrous vacation, if you start off by saying, I can't do it, I know I can't do it, I'm gonna keep dreaming about it, but I know that I can't, then I think we all know that it's probably true that you're not going to. Not just because of like manifesting and, you know, the power of intention, but also those decisions that you're actually going to make. You might just not take the right steps to get a house or become a writer or any other thing, because you just feel like, why would you bother taking the steps to achieve an impossible goal? So this is my little pep talk for the day. I'm definitely not going to BS you and tell you that these goals are easy and that these dreams are easy to achieve and that you're not probably going to have moments, maybe multiple year-long moments where you feel like you're spinning your wheels, maybe doing something that does not really feel like it's getting you to your goal, and you kind of feel like a failure. But at the same time, I hope I can encourage you to keep that little candle lit in your soul that says, you can do it. Because even in your darkest moments, that candle will help to guide you to something better. And you might be astonished at what you can achieve over the long haul. So I believe in you. You can do it. Let me be the person to tell you if no one else in your life is doing that for you. I hope that I can be in some tiny way like my friend who encouraged me when I was a teenager to finish my books, and then in my 20s to send books out to literary agents. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to click on my exclusive link in the description, magicmind.com/foxglovebf, to take advantage of their awesome 50% off Black Friday deal. If you're a fellow American, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. If you're new here, my name is Lydia Foxglove, and I'm a fantasy author. I have been mostly making my living as a novelist since 2009, and I'd love to have you stick around. And if you want more from me, I have a Patreon and a Substack. Same content on both, and they both have a free tier. The $5 tier gets you access to my Discord, bonus videos, and more. I talk about the creative life in general and writing in particular. And I will see you next time. Bye!